Samsung just unveiled their entire Galaxy S25 lineup, featuring the base, Plus, and range-topping S25 Ultra. The hardware and design changes for the S25 series are minimal and reductive, but not necessarily in a bad way. Samsung has stuck with their tried and true design language, but tweaked things ever so slightly, and to be honest, I'm a fan. All models this year are significantly thinner and lighter, with the S25 Ultra actually coming in 15 grams lighter and slightly narrower compared to last year's S24 Ultra, while retaining around the same screen size thanks to a slimmer bezel. And the S25 Ultra specifically is way more comfortable in the hand this year thanks to Samsung opting for rounded corners instead of the sharp angles of the previous year's S24 Ultra. Apart from that, the frame materials are the same, with aluminium for the base models and titanium for the Ultra. The Ultra also comes with Corning's new Gorilla Glass Armor 2 for even better anti-reflectivity and scratch and drop protection as well, even compared to last year's S24 Ultra display, which was already class leading in this aspect. However, the base model S25s don't actually get the same display treatment as the Ultra, which I personally think is a bit of a miss, because this makes a really meaningful improvement to the actual user experience under literally any lighting conditions. In terms of the displays themselves, there's really nothing special to report. Basically the same screen sizes, resolutions, and brightness levels, with all models featuring fully flat AMOLED 120Hz adaptive refresh rate displays, Full HD Plus resolution on the base, and QHD Plus on the Plus and the Ultra. Now, I personally don't think Samsung is at a perilous disadvantage compared to the rest of the smartphone competition in terms of displays, but a brighter display on the S25 Ultra definitely would have been nice. But arguably, the most significant upgrade for the S25 series has to be the chipset, the Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy. All three models will come with this chip, with no Exynos presence this time around. And from what we're seeing with other smartphones running the Snapdragon 8 Elite, raw performance will get a pretty significant jump compared to last year's flagship chip, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. The main takeaway here is that CPU, GPU, and NPU performance will be noticeably better for intensive tasks like gaming and AI workflows. All of the models will also ship with 12GB of RAM as standard, which is great from a longevity standpoint, combined with the fact that Samsung is promising, again, 7 years of major OS and platform updates. Efficiency is also a strong suit for the 8 Elite, and on the S25 Ultra specifically, which features a 40% larger vapor chamber cooling system, we should see some pretty good improvements in this area as well. But on the other hand, the actual battery specs and charging speeds seem to remain unchanged compared to last year's S24 lineup, which I personally find to be the most disappointing aspect for the S25 series so far. Look, the S25 Ultra has a 5000 mAh cell, which is conventionally considered to be a pretty big smartphone battery, and I for one have no doubt whatsoever that this phone will last a full day on a single charge. However, we're seeing smartphones from other manufacturers like Oppo, Vivo, and OnePlus reaching battery capacities of around 6000 mAh, all thanks to a new silicon carbon battery tech implementation. These allow for batteries to be far more energy dense, resulting in phones getting massive endurance boosts while the phones themselves get physically slimmer. Samsung has decided to forego this new battery tech, which I personally see as being less of a problem and more of an indication that maybe the $1,300 asking price doesn't really reflect the value we're seeing in the rest of the competition. This lack of change also extends to the camera hardware too, because the base S25 and S25 Plus feature the exact same camera hardware as the S24 base models from last year, with only the Ultra receiving a new 50MP ultra-wide camera, which to be fair looks incredible, especially with the new sharper macro mode, but all the other cameras on the Ultra, including the 200MP main camera, remain unchanged. Now, before you get worried, camera performance will get better thanks to improved software processing and imaging benefits afforded by the new Snapdragon chipset. And video recording does receive a boost, with 10-bit HDR video recording becoming the new norm, and log video shooting also becoming an option in the first-party camera. But again, I'm still left wanting more, because even the selfie cameras on these devices is the same one we've had on the past few generations of the S series, which I definitely want to see improved. Okay, so switching gears a little bit, something that's debuting with the S25 series and is also coming to a few previous generation Galaxies as well, is the all-new reimagined One UI 7 software running on top of Android 15. Now, I'm not going to go too in-depth with One UI 7, but here's what you need to know. It looks different and fresh, feels incredibly smooth and optimized, and to absolutely nobody's surprise, has even more Galaxy AI features baked in. If you'd like a deeper dive on some of these new software features like the new Now bar and stuff like that, make sure to subscribe to me on YouTube and follow on TikTok and Instagram for more coverage surrounding that. Now, before I wrap up the video, I want to touch on a few things. Firstly, Galaxy AI as a broad feature set is very useful and for the most part works incredibly well. However, I feel like some of the features that fall under the Galaxy AI umbrella aren't features that I would necessarily strictly classify as AI. To be clear, I'm not referring to anything involving generative AI or natural language or transformer models, but general features that are kind of pushed into the Galaxy AI sphere. Think about it this way: 5, 6, or even like 7 years ago, if these general features made their way into these phones, they would just be considered features and not necessarily AI. Basically, it's just getting to the point where the AIification of even the most mundane software features is contributing to an ever-growing sentiment of AI fatigue amongst consumers, who, by the way, don't truly understand the difference between generative AI and transformer models to just context-based machine learning, which, by the way, our smartphones have been doing for years and years now without having an AI label slapped on ad nauseum. Bringing it back to the S25 series, and especially the S25 Ultra, I really like what I see, despite my tone throughout some of this video. But it really feels like the greatest smartphone competition is ramping up in 2025, and the MSRP for the S25 Ultra feels a bit bloated for what you're getting compared to the rest of the competition, which in many cases is many hundreds of dollars cheaper. As great as the S25 series is, I'm left feeling torn. Samsung could, and most probably should, have done more with the S25 series, and to me, it just kind of feels like they're leaving features on the table in anticipation for future releases. Make no mistake, Samsung is not the only company who is taking advantage of this approach, and it seems to bear fruit for more companies as well. Keyword being fruit. The S25 series is really good. It's easy to recommend, and I can't complain about anything in particular, since there's no real aspect of these phones, especially in the range-topping S25 Ultra, that fundamentally gives anything less than a great user experience. To me, it just feels like it could have been that much better, and I guess I'll leave it at that.